We all have a bad day at work from time to time, and even some of Hollywood's finest aren't impervious to the occasional slip-up every now and then. After impressing audiences with their talents in roles that have ultimately helped define their careers, it's not uncommon for the same actor to follow it up with something that isn't reflective of their abilities at all. In fact, sometimes it could be some of the worst work they've ever produced. I'm Gareth from WhatCulture.com, and here are 10 actors that went from their best movie to their worst. Number 10. LUPITA Nyong'o, 12 Years a Slave to Non-Stop. While LUPITA Nyong'o blew audiences away with her performance in Jordan Peele's cerebral horror Us, it was her debut film appearance in Steve McQueen's 12 Years a Slave as Patsy that put her in the limelight, marking her as an incredible talent and rewarding her with an Oscar for her efforts. Unfortunately though, lightning didn't strike twice for Nyong'o in her second film, where she played a flight attendant named Gwen in underwhelming Liam Neeson-fronted action flick Non-Stop. While by no means the worst film ever made, this claustrophobic thriller followed Neeson hunting down a killer on an international flight, ultimately boiled down to a somewhat entertaining but overcomplicated and overlong mess. While Nyong'o isn't necessarily awful in the film, it's still a far cry from 12 Years a Slave and anything she's done afterwards. Number 9. Hugh Jackman, Les Miserables to movie 43. Australian actor Hugh Jackman is best known for playing X-Men's Wolverine for the best part of 17 years, topping it off with his gritty performance in the Western-inspired Logan. However, out of his varied award-winning career, the crown jewel is arguably his role as French revolutionary Jean Valjean in Tom Hooper's multi-Oscar winning screen adaptation of Les Miserables, which earned Jackman his only Oscar nomination to date. Jackman's career was destined for greater things to come, but to get there he first had to get through the cinematic abomination that was movie 43. An unfunny, critically loathed and dubiously produced anthology comedy, Jackman appeared alongside Kate Winslet in a segment entitled The Catch that saw the pair on a date at a restaurant. But what was the titular catch? Jackman, who plays an unassuming man named Davis, removes his scarf, revealing a nice pair of testicles on his neck. I don't really want to add anything more to that. Number 8. Daisy Ridley, Star Wars The Last Jedi to OPHELIA. Getting her huge break in Star Wars The Force Awakens as main hero, Rey, after making her debut in low-budget horror film Skrull the same year, Daisy Ridley is only beginning to establish herself in the movie industry. However, after Ridley had given her best performance to date as Rey in Rian Johnson's The Last Jedi, she starred in the small indie drama Ophelia, a reimagination of Shakespeare's Hamlet adapted from the book of the same name by Lisa Klein. Though the film presented an intriguing premise and impressive cinematography from director Claire McCarthy, the uninspired and dry performances from a cast that included Naomi Watts and George McKay resulted in a very dull experience. Ridley's passionless presence, however, proved to be the worst of the bunch. The force was not strong with this one. Number 7. J.K. Simmons, Whiplash to Barefoot. With almost 200 acting credits to his name, J.K. Simmons is a prolific, hardworking and immensely talented actor adored for his performances as Spider-Man's J. Jonah Jameson, Portal 2's Cave Johnson, and most recently for voicing the eponymous Klaus in the Oscar-nominated Netflix animation. However, Simmons shone brightest as malicious music tutor Terrence Fletcher in Whiplash. Simmons' domineering and often frightening performance stole the spotlight from the rest of the cast, winning him his only Oscar. Given the number of projects Simmons has featured in, it was inevitable that there would be some stinkers. The stinkiest of which was Barefoot, which arrived on the festival circuit just weeks after Whiplash's Sundance premiere. Barefoot chronicles the peculiar and misguided relationship between Jay and Daisy, a barefooted patient at the hospital where Simmons' character, Dr. Bertelman, works. Described as a waste of the actor's talent by the New York Times and being labelled sexist by other critics, Barefoot sits at a shameful 14% on Rotten Tomatoes, forever acting as a stain on Simmons' career that's probably best forgotten. Number 6. Will Ferrell, Anchorman: The Legend of Ron Burgundy to Melinda and Melinda. Will Ferrell is best known for his clownish characters and sharp improvisations in Blades of Glory, Step Brothers, Talladega Nights, The Ballad of Ricky Bobby, and of course, Anchorman: The Legend of Ron Burgundy. Given Ferrell's distinct style of comedy, his next film appearance after Anchorman as Hubie in Woody Allen's parallel comedy and tragedy Melinda and Belinda came across as a bit of a strange choice. While Ferrell has shown that he's more than capable of pulling off more serious roles, it takes a certain neurotic awkwardness to portray the male leads the auteur made famous in his earlier works. Owen Wilson had it in Midnight in Paris, and Jesse Eisenberg definitely had it in Café Society, but Ferrell's lively persona just wasn't the right fit this time around. Number 5. Jared Leto, Dallas Buyers Club to Suicide Squad. After acquiring the attention of critics for his performance as troubled heroin addict Harry Goldfarb in Requiem for a Dream, Jared Leto topped that performance 13 years later with his magnificent portrayal of the fictional Rayon in biographic film Dallas Buyers Club. Winning Best Supporting Actor for his efforts, Leto's stint as HIV-positive trans woman Rayon exemplified his ability for completely disappearing into his roles. Although the character herself was fictionalized based on interviews by trans HIV patients, Rayon was a large part of the heart of the film. Leto's next big screen outing as Joker in Suicide Squad, however, was marked in infamy. Already a disastrous mess on every level, Leto's unconventional and cringeworthy incarnation of the classic comic book villain was the cherry on top of a heavily panned and vapid comic book blockbuster. Number 4. Jack Black, Tropic Thunder to Year One. Adored by many for his laid-back comedy stylings, lovable underdog characters, and righteous vocals, Jack Black has been a popular face in comedy films from the 2000s onwards. But even his tenure as rock mentor Dewey Finn doesn't compare to that of Jeff Portnoy in ensemble comedy favourite Tropic Thunder. A drug-addicted comedy star, Black joined other actors, including Robert Downey Jr. and Ben Stiller, in the jungles of Vietnam to shoot their latest film. But when the action becomes reality, the group must play their parts for real. Turning everything about Jack's vibrant screen presence and comedic delivery up to 11, Black has never been as hilarious. This success was rather short-lived, however, as 1 year later he starred opposite Michael Cera in forgettable caveman comedy Year One. Playing a Neanderthal hunter named Zed, Black's talents were utterly wasted in this misfire of a buddy comedy that saw the protagonist venture into the world after accidentally burning down their village. Not even Black's vibes could stop this film from becoming extinct. Number 3. Robert Downey Jr., Avengers Endgame to Doolittle. Also appearing in Tropic Thunder, where he gained an Oscar nomination, Robert Downey Jr. has become immortalized for his portrayal of Tony Stark/Iron Man in the MCU ever since it began way back in 2008. His sarcastic one-liners and charismatic presence instantly made him a fan favorite, and in Avengers Endgame, his last ever outing as the superhero, he knocked it out of the park. Following his tear-jerking departure from the MCU, audiences were left wondering what he would do next. Nobody expected that he would be starring in Disney's Dolittle as the eponymous doctor who can converse with animals in a performance that has been heavily ridiculed. Ripped apart by critics for its jumbled narrative and insultingly crass humor, Downey Jr., who also acted as executive producer, was described by Screen Crush as devoid of any human characteristics. Throw in an almost unintelligible Welsh accent and possibly the worst fart jokes ever put on film, and you have an actor that fell a long, long way from the heights of Endgame. Number 2. Eddie Redmayne, The Theory of Everything to Jupiter Ascending. With his awkward, dorkish smile and charming presence, Eddie Redmayne is the perfect fit for the lovable oddball characters of Fantastic Beasts Newt Scamander or the aeronauts James Glacier. He's one of those actors you can't help but root for, and nowhere was his enchanting personality put to better use than in Stephen Hawking biopic The Theory of Everything. Winning Redmayne an Academy Award for Best Actor as the physicist, the film, adapted from the memoirs of his wife Jane Hawking, chronicled the relationship with his wife, his struggle with motor neuron disease, and his scientific pursuits. Following the success of The Theory of Everything, Redmayne's next film would also see him win an award, but not the kind he was expecting. A Golden Raspberry for Worst Supporting Actor in the Wachowskis' sci-fi soap opera Jupiter Ascending as melodramatic and villain with the silliest name, Bellum Abrasax. Light years from Redmayne's standard affair, this performance was more uncomfortable than charming. delivering the majority of his dialogue in a strange whisper while shouting others at full volume. Whatever Redmayne was aiming for here just didn't work. Number 1. Uma Thurman, Kill Bill Volume 2 to Be Cool. Nominated for an Oscar for her performance as Mia Wallace in Quentin Tarantino's masterful Pulp Fiction, Uma Thurman was only catapulted further into pop culture coolness when she starred in Tarantino's next project, Kill Bill. Released in 2 parts, this homage to the revenge thriller followed Thurman as Beatrix Kiddo on her quest to murder her former boss Bill and assassinate colleagues after they leave her for dead at her own wedding. It's just not on. Nominated for a Golden Globe for her performance in both entries, Thurman is arguably at the top of her game in Volume 2. Not only does she channel Tarantino's idiosyncratic aesthetic, she also gives us a reason to care about her character's revenge fantasy for another feature-length outing. Her next film, though, with the ironic title Be Cool, was not cool in the slightest. The sequel to Get Shorty, Be Cool did reunite Thurman with Pulp Fiction co-star John Travolta, who reprised his role as mobster Chili Palmer with Thurman as record producer Edie Athens. Garnering negative reviews pretty much across the board, Be Cool is as painfully awkward as a 2000s comedy can pretty much get. Thankfully, it wasn't bad enough to destroy Thurman's otherwise successful career, so there's a kind of a silver lining? Yeah. And that is our list. Know of any other actors who went from their best film to their worst? Let us know all about them in the comment section below. And do not forget to like, share and subscribe. Just click on that subscribe button. I've been Gareth from WhatCulture.com. I hope your day is filled with laughter and joy, and I'm sure I'm gonna see you soon.